Thanks everybody for joining us today. We are really excited to show you our new assessment management platform here at Schoology. Just to give you a little bit of background and context before Adam takes you through the presentation. Last year, when we were working with our school districts that currently use the Enterprise Learning Management System, we were talking to them a little bit about how they deploy assessments, either in person or digitally. And what we kept finding was that those districts that were working with common or benchmark assessments were really interested in having that integrated into their learning environment and their curriculum management digitally, potentially through Schoology. So that's where the idea initially came from, and since then, our development team has built into the platform, has built into Schoology the assessment management platform to really address that need of having our district building level, grade level assessments be integrated into the classroom, into our curriculum management, so it creates a seamless workflow for our partner schools and districts. So that's really what we're excited about. We're going to show you more of that today, but I'll turn it over now to Adam.
Great. And I am Adam Larson. I'm the Director of Educational Strategy here at Schoology. My main role is to really take what we do as a company and translate that to your classrooms. And then, of course, to listen to you as clients or potential clients, understand what you're doing and translating that to us as a company. Specifically, this presentation is really wanting to take a new offering, our AMP tool, our assessment management platform, and really showing how it can be a benefit to your classrooms. I actually had the opportunity to be a teacher for 5 years, both at the elementary and intermediate level. Then I worked as 5 years as a campus instructional technology specialist. That's a mouthful. And then I worked at another 2 years at the district level, helping out with technology integration as a whole. All that before I came into Schoology. So it's really great to be here and to provide you guys some perspective on what the assessment management does. So with that said, we'll go ahead and turn off the webcams just so we can have as much real estate on the screen as possible, and we'll get started. So the first thing I usually like to ask is, what do you think of when I say assessment management? A lot of you guys, obviously, we have a lot on right now, so I can't hear all of your answers, but a lot of times people think of a centralized location for maybe question creation, or maybe they think of a way to aggregate all the data. We do all of that with the new AMP tool, but we even do some more things. So it's always good to kind of start off with, what do you think assessment management is? For today, though, we're going to focus on 4 stories and 4 perspectives, but it's all happening in one place with Schoology. We're going to talk about a student perspective, a teacher perspective, a principal perspective, and then a coordinator perspective, and how all of them interact with the assessment management platform within Schoology. So hopefully you guys will have a chance to kind of see all this being done today. The first user that we're going to look at is Terry. Terry is our student, and he finds himself in Miss Brooks' algebra class. And when it comes to the assessment management platform, he really has 3 things that he's looking to get out of this. First off, he wants it to be seamless. He doesn't want to have to worry about another URL, another login credentials to get into a place where the assessment is going to happen. He wants it to feel natural to the learning process. He also wants it to be engaging. Terry's had enough of the normal Scantron, bubble sheet kind of assessments. He wants question types that truly engage him. And then third, he wants it to be visible. How many times do students turn in a summative type assessment and never hear about the results again? Or at least if they do, it's multiple weeks afterwards. He wants that data to be visible to him right away. And we're going to talk through how our assessment management within Schoology does all those things. So first off, the seamless experience. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Schoology, this is our normal 3-column layout that all users experience when they log into the platform. In the left-hand side is the navigation that's associated with Terry's account for the different things that he would need. In the middle is the recent activity, and on the right-hand side is overdue assignments, maybe upcoming calendar events, things like that. But specifically for today, we're going to look at Miss Brooks' algebra class. And this is the recent activity where Miss Brooks has shared a video for the students to watch. And he's just going to click on that little link, and it takes him to the course page. So this is Miss Brooks' algebra course. She kind of has a fun 3 things to survive algebra and kind of lays that all out for the student. But for today, Terry has finished the lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3 in course, and now he's going to do the Unit 1 test. And this Unit 1 test is what we're going to be spending some time talking about from Terry and Miss Brooke's perspective. So when I click on Unit 1 test, this launches the instructions for the test. This is all created at the district level and being pushed out to the courses, and we'll talk about that process as we talk to the coordinator's perspective. But notice the test can have instructions that are associated with it, maybe the standards that go along that are covered in it, maybe the pre-knowledge that they have to have before beginning it. But since Terry is ready to go, he's just going to press that begin button. When he presses begin, this actually launches the new test delivery system that Schoology is releasing. Notice that at the bottom is kind of the ability to see all the various questions and for you to jump from one to the other. And there's some other things that I want to point out on the side later on. But specifically, I want to talk through all the new question types that are coming your way soon. And the very first one is a highlight text. This is a question type that allows you to have a passage. Maybe it's a short sentence, maybe it's multiple paragraphs, but it allows a student to actually select words or sentences or maybe even a letter that can showcase whether they know, like for instance, how do they know what verbs are in this sentence. Or maybe it's a line of code and they're having to identify the errors that might exist. Or maybe it's just a whole essay and they're having to pick out the topic sentences from each paragraph. So that's a highlight text. That's one of the question types. If I go to the next one, this is the math short answer. This allows them to have multiple types of keyboards associated with your short answer. This keyboard that's showing up right now is the Math Junior keyboard, so it's very simple with just some of the numbers. You can actually have Greek keyboards that are associated with it, algebra keyboards that have calculus kind of equations. All those keyboards are associated with these question types and available for students to go through. From next is the number line question. This question is really fun. A lot of times we think of a number line as maybe a fraction, putting fractions on a number line, but a number line can also be a timeline. So in this particular question, they're taking periods of time and putting that on a timeline. So whether you're in English class, looking at the context of a story, or maybe in a social studies class and figuring out what time periods were associated with what, it's a great way to do that. By the way, all the question types that I'm going through, except for 2, are all automatically graded. So the question types that you create are actually going to be graded for you. The next one is a chart question. This is having the student rank the character traits of Harry Potter, and they're just clicking and dragging this. This is a histogram. We also have bar charts and also line graphs that are associated with this kind of question type. So a lot of different options there. The next one is a label image. I prefer to have a frog dissection picture for this one, but I think it turned off some of our users. So we decided to do something a little bit more neutral, like labeling a roller coaster with potential energy and kinetic energy. This could have also been like a United States map, where I'm labeling a map or a frog dissection. The other choice is a highlight hotspot. This particular foreign language question has a paragraph that students are reading through, and then within the image, they're having to select all the items that were made reference to in that passage. Again, just showing some of the robust question types that are going to be coming your way with the assessment management platform. And the last question type that I wanted to go over before I talk through the shared passage is a highlight image, and this is one of my favorites. This particular question is geared for a math teacher, and what's one of the biggest things that we hear from our math teachers why they don't want to use online learning tools? It's because students have to show work, right? Well, with this particular question type, you can insert an image into the area, and now students actually can, whether it's using a trackpad or a mouse or a stylus, if they have that access, they can actually work out the problem right here in the question, and then as Ms. Brooke goes back to check the work, she can actually see a replay of this work as it's being completed. And when we get to Ms. Brooke, I'll show you what that looks like. But again, this is a great way to allow students to be able to show work or really, draw on any kind of image that you want to put in there. And the last question type that I'm going to cover before moving on is the shared passage. This is by far one of the most requested question types. You can almost think of this as a question set where you have a specific passage. Maybe it's an excerpt from a poem, maybe it's an infographic or a diagram, and all that information is made available to the student, and then there are certain questions that are associated with it. So for instance, like a multiple choice, where it's a traditional A, B, C, or D, they could choose multiple options if you wanted them to. Or a fill-in-the-blank question that has drop-down selections. This one I think teachers were really excited about seeing. Or a matching question, and our matching now is more robust with the actual clicking and dragging of the answers into specific fields so that they can really see how those concepts go together and are linked. Excuse me. And then the other option is an ordering question where I'm, again, dragging and dropping these things in a sequential order. This will actually grade it all for you. And then the short answer is the last question type that I'll cover today, and that is very similar to our current short answer in the essays with ability to assign a rubric and do grading along those lines. So anyway, as you see, there's a lot of options for students to have new kind of question types that go beyond just your normal Scantron test. And this is the kind of learning that we're really wanting to engage our students with. Now, after Terry has finished that test, he has the ability to press submit. And then when he says finish, and then OK, normally you can think of this as like the student passing in the Scantron, right? Or pressing submit in some kind of online program. But now, when he says OK, he can actually see the results that show up right here for him. Now, there are a couple of question types that Miss Brooke is going to have to grade. So he doesn't have a grade right now, but he knows exactly where he needs to go in the future to be able to see how he did on that Unit 1 test. It's no longer going into the neither world and that he never hears back from this assessment. It's right there within his course for him to be able to evaluate. Now, the second user that I want to talk through is Miss Brooke. Miss Brooke is the algebra teacher, and I wanted to showcase how she really leverages the assessment management platform in her classroom. She wants three things, just like Terry. She wants it to be seamless. If she's giving up her classroom time to deliver an assessment, she wants it to feel not so much like a sore thumb, right? She wants it to be part of that normal process. She wants to have control over the test. So if this test is coming into her educational world, she wants to have some kind of control. And then third, she wants to get benefit from this assessment. Now, I know that there's summative data that we can always pull from assessments, but she wants something more than that. And I'm going to be able to show you that as we go through this. So the first off is seamless. Again, this is Miss Brooke's course. The difference between this view and Terry's view is she has the ability, of course, as the editor, to add materials or to edit certain things. She is the actual instructor of this course. And I wanted to show you how she normally teaches. If I click on Unit 1, you can see that she went through Lesson 1, Lesson 2, Lesson 3. Each of those lessons has a specific thing that she's trying to teach. And she just finished Lesson 3, where the students had a kind of a warm-up activity where they were answering 3 quick questions. They had an in-class activity where students were actually working on the assignment together and submitting a digital copy of that. And then she has a flipped lesson where the students watch a video and it's associated with a discussion forum so students can ask questions about the video that they just watched. So that learning is already taking place within her Schoology course, but now she also has this Unit 1 test. Miss Brooke was actually part of helping create this Unit 1 test at the district level. But now, at the district level, it's being pushed into her course, and once it's in her course, she has the ability to put it wherever she desires. And so it's the Unit 1 test, so she's going to put it in the Unit 1 folder. Once it's in her course, she has a couple of options. First off, she can edit this. So when I go to the edit screen for this assessment, I can choose what kind of scale I want it to be, numeric or A+ or pass-fail. I can associate how many points this is going to be worth in my course. So if I want it to be 100 points or 0 points, Ms. Brooke can say what category she wants it to be a part of. Maybe it's part of the test and quiz. Maybe it's just a kind of a ungraded category. And then also what grading period that it should be associated with. In addition to that, we're not going to talk about this a whole lot today, but she also has the ability to individually assign this. So if assessments are being pushed out from the district level that have specific groups in mind with modifications, she can individually assign those assessments to those students. So she has that option as well. I'm going to cancel for right now. I'm going to click on the Unit 1 test. When I click on the Unit 1 test, I see as the instructor, as Ms. Brooke, I see the instructions that are going to be available for the students. And then I see also the settings. These settings that right now are being set by the district. So, for instance, is there a time limit? Is it resumable? Is it randomized? How many attempts do they have? All that's established by the district level and then being made available for the teacher to be able to see. However, the teacher does have the ability to set the availability for the students to actually take that assessment. So if a teacher is not ready to actually deliver that assessment, they don't have to make that available for students to go through. So she has direct control over that. In addition to that, I want to show you attempts by students. So let's say that students have taken the assessment. So Terry's gone through it, right? Now, when she wants to go and see the students' submissions and see how their actual grading is done, she can do that. And also, if there are any items that actually need her grading, she can simply click on the needs grading and then be able to review the work that's being submitted. I did tell you that specifically that this is a question number 7 that was the students showing their work. This is how, as a teacher, Ms. Brooke can actually see a replay of what Terry did. She can obviously go through all the various assessments and see all the various questions as they were submitted. And see how students did, and then be able to grade with rubric if rubrics are associated and things like that. So again, this is a great control that Ms. Brooke has actually over this particular assessment. In addition to that, she can see by all of her different periods. So if she has one course and she's linked her courses together, which I highly advise doing, and which is a great functionality of Schoology, she can see all of her various periods all from one place. It's really easy for her to be able to access that data. The third thing I mentioned is how can Ms. Brooke really benefit from this assessment? And I wanted to show you real quick how it looks in her gradebook. So this is Ms. Brooke's gradebook. She has a lot of other things that she's been doing, right, with warm-ups and the journals and things like that. But now there's a Unit 1 test column. The minute she scores that test assignment, those couple of the things that needed to be graded, those grades automatically populate into her gradebook as she has determined it to be. The nice thing is that she's not having to get a Excel spreadsheet and copy those things over manually. All that's done for her. And in addition to that, not only does that grade show up in the grade book, but any question that was tied to a specific standard shows up in our Mastery tab. And some of you might not be familiar with Mastery. Mastery basically is a tool that aggregates all the various instances that students are being assessed, whether it's a discussion, an assignment, or a test, and pulls all that data and how the students are actually doing into a dashboard view. So now I can see what areas that students are struggling in. So for instance, after that Unit 1 test, I noticed, Ms. Brooke notices that there is a certain column that's red. That means that this particular standard, she might need to spend some more time going over. But if she starts seeing red kind of going this direction, horizontally, she knows that maybe Kim and Darren are students that she wants to spend some more time with going over some concepts. So again, she gets not only summative benefit at the end of seeing how all her students are doing, but she gets formative data that she can start using in class tomorrow, and then grades, of course, that help her fill out the quotas that she's needing. The next user that I want to talk through is Mr. Walt. This is Mr. Walt in his native habitat. He's the principal out in the hallway giving those fun hall passes. He has a couple of things when it comes to the assessment management too. He wants it to be seamless, and that's going to be a theme with this, right? He wants the data to be accessible quickly, and he wants it all aggregated. And those are legitimate requests from Mr. Walt. So when Mr. Walt is interacting with Schoology, whenever a principal is kind of going into the platform, most of the time they're looking through the advisee tool. The advisee tool is a way for campus admins to be able to jump into any student's digital backpack and see what's happening in their courses, with their grades, with their calendar. All those kind of things are available. But when he goes into this particular course, he sees Algebra 1, and he knows that they just actually delivered a test using the assessment management. So what he's going to do, instead of going into each student one at a time, he's going to click on assessment results. When he clicks on assessment results, he's going to choose a particular assessment to look at. And now at the admin level at his campus, he can see all the various teachers that have had that test delivered in their course. So he can see how Miss Brooks' course, how Miss Brooke is doing, how Miss Campbell, how Mr. Richards. He can see at a quick level how the score is going, how many students have taken it, the standard deviation, and a lot of data that's associated with it. Not only can he do it by instructors, but he can also do it by sections. So now he can see specifically that, you know what, Miss Campbell's third period might need a little bit more help. And also it's interesting, you can also see that Miss Campbell's first period is one that's doing the best. So he can figure out, okay, why is that data actually showcasing that way, and be able to actually act upon that information. And again, the minute the students submit their assessments for a admin level, it's only a matter of an hour for all this data to be aggregated and made available for him to be able to review. So it's a really powerful way for him to be able to check this out. In addition to that, he can also change from test scores to mastery proficiency. So now with this particular test, he can see these specific objectives that students were having issues with. And he can actually go to the student level and see that, hey, Jean and Eugene and Brenda are having issues with this. Specifically, Brenda's having an issue with this first objective. And now when he goes and talks with that PLC, he can actually bring some of this data along with him, all from his, of course, laptop. He's not having to print all these things out. The next and the last person that I want to talk through is Dr. Frank. Now, Dr. Frank is the coordinator. And something that I've been saying throughout the presentation is kind of the assessment management from the district perspective. And Dr. Frank in this scenario is actually a district level coordinator, but you can also be thinking of, for your specific district or division or institution, however you want to say it, it also can be done at a lower level. So let's say you have a more decentralized district where campuses are kind of making their own decisions and doing their own assessments. This coordinator could be a campus coordinator. So Dr. Frank could be working with the maybe 5 algebra teachers, and he's helping to coordinate this test to be delivered. Or maybe this is just a department head, or maybe it's a PLC leader. It could be a lot of different things. So assessment management doesn't always have to be associated with the district level. It could be whatever level you want it to be. But he still has some needs. He wants it to be seamless, right? He doesn't want to have another platform to worry about. He wants to manage the assessment with the teams, with the actual assessment. And then he wants data aggregation. We're going to show you all those things from his perspective. So first off, as Dr. Frank, he is the kind of the math coordinator at the secondary level. Where he interacts with the platform the most is his district algebra group. This algebra group is set up for all algebra teachers to be a part of. Here he has the ability to make posts, update all the various members. He can have discussions where they're talking about the actual curriculum, albums, maybe showcasing the observations that he's doing, and then, of course, members is an area for individuals to make connections with others. But specifically, I want to click on resources, and you can also see that at the district level, he's creating the content structure and some of the actual lesson items for teachers to be able to leverage. In Mrs. Brooks' course, you'll notice that these folders were the exact same things. So Miss Brooke comes into the course, takes the content that's going to work for her and places it into her course. But as a district coordinator, he also wants some more functionality, specifically with assessments. So when he goes to resources, he's going to click on assessment. And now this is the assessment management platform. If we want to talk about the nuts and bolts of the assessment management, this is kind of that back-end process. So with being the secondary math coordinator, he has a couple of teams that are associated with him, algebra, algebra 2, calculus. Notice he doesn't have to worry about the science teams. He doesn't have to worry about even the elementary teams. He's simply over the secondary math teams. From here, he has the ability to create new teams. So if he wanted to create a new particular STEM team to create assessments, he could do that here. And then once a team is created, he has then the ability to add members. And these members can be added from anywhere in the institution. So regardless of the campus, regardless of their position, individuals can be added to these teams. And that's the great thing, right? That as a math coordinator, Dr. Frank isn't having to create these assessments in a vacuum. He has a platform to allow that. And then, by the way, all of his teams are familiar with Schoology. This is the normal platform that they use for their learning, so it becomes an easy process for them to get on board with creating assessments. So once the team is created and members are added, there's a couple of things that he can now do. The first is a bank. And you can think of this, a bank is a place where all the questions are built. And once questions are built, whether they're highlight image, whether they're ordering, whether they're shared passage, whatever question it is, they're built here. Every question starts off in draft mode, so that's simply people collaborating and working on that question. Once you as a math coordinator are ready, they can actually be put into active mode. And when they're in active mode, they can actually be used in a test, which I'll get to in a second. And then the third is retired. So any question that you choose to retire, you can retire from that bank. So if questions are where banks are, if banks are where questions are found, tests are where actually questions are delivered. So a test can be associated with multiple banks. From the actual test, you can have multiple versions. Those versions can be draft, active, and retired. We're not going to talk too much about that actual process, but just know that you have the ability to have those various versions being pushed out to your district. And that's some things that we can follow up with you specifically on. Also, you can have folders that help organize your content. So if you have maybe banks that are associated by topics or by units or by standards or by difficulty, however you want that to be established, you can create folders that follow suit. But let's say that this Unit 1 test is all ready to go. As a coordinator, he can click on the little gear icon, and now he can say Add to Sections. From here, he can push this assessment into all the courses that he wishes. So if he wants every Algebra 1 course to have this Unit 1 test, he can choose those and push the test into those courses. And from there, Miss Brooke or Miss Richards or Miss Campbell, whoever the teacher might be, can put that into the correct folder and be able to weight it by grade and things like that. But the big thing is that this assessment is pushed out. And now when that assessment is pushed out, he has the ability then to look at the results. So when I click on Assessment Results, now at the coordinator level, he's able to see how each school is doing. So how is Harrison School doing? McKinley, Polk. He can see the overall score of those different campuses. So he can really start identifying the areas of need and areas of success. In addition to that, if you wanted to change from school to maybe a specific teacher, and he can also be able to see that. So since Dr. Walt is kind of at the top level, or Dr. Frank rather, is at the top level, he can see everything beneath him. So he can see all the way from the campus level to that specific student. He has all that data underneath him. In addition to that, he also has the ability to see the mastery proficiency and see how things are doing along those lines. But I know I covered quite a bit in this actual presentation. We went through 4 different users, a student, a teacher, a principal, and a district or maybe campus coordinator. But the big thing I wanted to really point out is that there is an incredible opportunity that you might be missing out on if you don't really have a link between assessment and classroom learning. And we as a company would love to talk more about how our solution can meet your needs and maybe help you move forward. Now, I do want to stop because I am over time, and I know that there's a couple of questions that we want to be able to answer. So, Scott, can we go ahead and maybe start answering some of those questions?
Yes, we can. We're back.
All right, well, thank you so much. Yeah, there was an unbelievable amount of responses that were coming in on the chat as Adam was doing his presentation. So thank you so much for the engagement. We're really excited to see the interest. I wanted to address some common questions that we were seeing from many people. I tried to get to as many as possible. So the most prevalent question was, we're interested, how much does it cost? Who do we talk to? Those are great questions. So for our existing users of the enterprise platform, you'll have a representative here at Schoology already, either in the account management team or on the support team who you've worked with in the past. Please reach out to that person if you have contact information and let them know that you're interested in having a discussion about the assessment management platform specifically. If you're not sure who to contact and you are using Enterprise, we're going to be contacting everybody as well. And so for those on the webinar who are not currently using Schoology Enterprise, we will be reaching out to everybody directly in the next day or two, and we'll give you information about how to contact. If you have an immediate question, you can also email Scott at scott@schoology.com. But we'll definitely be reaching out to everybody in the next couple of days. A couple other questions that sort of rose to the top. The question types, which are incredible. We're really excited about them. They are currently the enhanced question types, so the ones that Adam highlighted, those are only currently available on the assessment management platform. So you can build managed assessments leveraging the new enhanced question types. Eventually, they will be available to enterprise users of the learning management system. We don't have a timeline on that right now. So what we're saying is for 2016, at least they'll only be available on the AMP the AMP platform. A couple other questions that were coming up throughout, the idea of mobile responsiveness. Currently with AMP, you can take a managed assessment on a mobile device, specifically Android or an iOS device. It's only available on browsers that you have available, so that might be Chrome or Safari. I've used it a lot on mobile, and it is very responsive, and your students can use their touchscreen to answer some of those questions. Down the road, it's on our 3 to 6 month roadmap. It will also be available on the native applications for Schoology as well. We know that's going to be really important for our districts that are using one-to-one or they have a BYOD program. So that's definitely coming down the road, but in the interim, you can use it on browser. Just a couple other questions really quickly. We know that people are interested in the lockdown browser functionality. Currently, we do have an integration with Respondus. It is available as part of the learning management system. You are required to have a subscription with Respondus, but if you do, that integration is built directly into Schoology. That is not currently available on the assessment management platform, but it will be a little bit later on in the year. We're targeting September, October timeframe to have that functionality available, and I know that's important. One other question that came up, do we have the ability to print out managed assessments and provide them on paper to our students? That is a feature that is, like Respondus, available in the learning management system right now. That is also, like Respondus, not currently available on the assessment management platform, but this is why it's been so nice for us to work with our school districts that were both part of the beta and have added AMP already. That's the feedback we've been getting, and so printed assessments will be available, again, in the mid to late fall timeframe. I think that's, yeah, those are the ones that were really rising to the top.
Yeah, so I know there were a lot of other questions as well that we weren't able to get to. We will do our best to follow up with those. Again, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me at Scott@Schoology, and I'll direct you to the right person if I can't answer it. And Adam, did you have one thing to add?
Yeah, I think I made a point of it during the presentation, but I really wanted to have this hit home. A lot of times when people think about assessment management, they start thinking at the district level, and really a lot of districts that we work with are not centralized in that way. So if you're a campus admin that is really wanting to deliver assessments to that really aggregates the data, this is a tool that's going to be extremely valuable to you. So even though it's not being done at the district level, it can still be done at the campus level. We encourage you to kind of explore more about this and how it can be a benefit to you.
Yeah, and Adam, I'll quickly piggyback off of that. I think that's a great point. And just in terms of the scope of some of our districts that have already added AMP to their platform, we have a school as small as 500 students, and we have a district as large as 60,000 students. So that really gives you a good understanding of Schoology's scope, and really that this platform it's providing the framework, but ultimately it's really up to your teams and your organization of how you want to deploy it.
Yeah. And do you have any closing words or anything you want to add?
No, I think the only real thing that we're excited about is, and I think we saw it from the poll at the beginning, was the level of engagement that already exists in our K through 12 school districts around assessment. Part of the reason that we were really excited to take this on as an education company is that we know this is a central part of basically every school or district that we work with. And so we're just really excited to dig in and work with you individually to diagnose and engage in how assessments are currently being administered, how the data is being reviewed, and see how that could potentially work within Schoology as well.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Chris and Adam, for presenting. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope it was informational. We recorded this, so we will send it out in the next couple of hours for everybody that was here. And again, if you have any questions, Scott at Schoology, but we will certainly reach out to everybody and try and address those individual needs. So thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you next month for the next webinar.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.